Good morning. It's the Sunday, the 13th of April 2025. You're welcome back. Some newcomers to the channel think that I haven't been doing anything for the last 10 years, but in fact I have made videos on Enoch Burke's situation and several things, and they just weren't on the channel, and they think that I don't even know about these things. I have hundreds of videos there. I'll be clearing off all the ones that are obsolete because my computer, I have my laptop back again, and I'll only be leaving the relevant ones. Now, yesterday, the United Kingdom recalled Parliament. It recalled Parliament on a Saturday, on Easter week, from the Easter recess. Now, what's happened is this. For the last almost 20 years, school dropouts like Greta Thunberg, whom I was banned from making videos about from YouTube, were running the policy of the West in regard to climate change and in regard to industrial output and burning of fuel. And the government in Britain wasn't behind that. The EU was doing it, and the left-wing Democratic Party in America were at it too. Trump got in and he put a stop to it, and nobody says anything to him. You think they'd be saying, oh, you're destroying the environment. But no, they don't say a word, because they know damn well the whole thing is one elaborate scam at this point. Now, what I've been doing is I've been propagating or broadcasting this, that the climate change thing is a scam insofar as, irrespective of what happens with the climate change, there's not one damn thing the European Union or the British or the Americans can do about it, because other parts of the world are going to take up any slack in production that the West has. And you'll see there in India, in videos in India, them making lathe beds and engine blocks and crankshafts. And in one yard about 18 miles from here, there's about 400 crankshafts for tractors, and they're all made in India, all on the box made in India. It's fellas with skirts on them, no health and safety or nothing. So what's happened is, when you suppress industry in one place, it crops up somewhere else, and they can't stop that because they can't control the whole world. And that's what the World Economic Forum is trying to do, to control everyone, and they're failing and going to fail miserably. Now, so what's happened is they recalled Parliament yesterday because the last remaining steel plant in Scunthorpe is closing down. The two blast furnaces that are there are closing down. Can you believe that? And so they had to recall Parliament and effectively nationalise that industry in Scunthorpe. Now, it was owned by Tata Steel, and they couldn't, and they said themselves, the green restrictions is what was destroying their profit. They couldn't make money. And then a Chinese crowd, Jingjoy, or so Jinggy, I think it is, a Chinese company took it over, and they were trying to make a go of it. And again, they come up against the very same problem. The more they saved on fuel, the more they did this and that, the more the government punished them and made them buy carbon credits from all other defunct industries. And maybe someone that was making wheelbarrows or something, he had a certain amount of carbon certificates, and he could sell them and stop making his wheelbarrows, have them made in China, and the company like Scunthorpe were going to have to buy those documents. It is absolute madness, and Starmer doubled down on net zero, and everything he's tried to do has failed. He thought he was going to march an army into Ukraine. Trump told him, will you cop yourself on? And so did some of the other EU countries. And he was going to have net zero, and he still believes in it. And he's going to put huge big wind turbines out in the North Atlantic, which are net consumers of electricity when measured over a year. I have said that several times. Nobody takes me up or challenges me on that. Now, the thing about it is that they recalled Parliament, and they've placed Scunthorpe Steelworks and its blast furnaces under public control with a budget to do so. And they've appointed some lad there, he was, what's his name? And he's a secretary of industry or something. And this fella never made anything in his life, and now he's going to fix Scunthorpe. It has two blast furnaces which uses coking coal, and the secondary, the natural steel or iron. So when iron is mined out of the ground as ore, it contains a lot of rock and clay and everything else, and it gives one run in a sort of a furnace that just heats everything up and gets the iron to separate out, and then it goes round in nodules, just like this mobile phone. Pieces of it stuck on balls and everything else, all kinds of shapes, and a lot of impurities in it. And that's taken into a big blast furnace, and the air and oxygen is pumped up in the inside, and there's lime. It's 3/4 filled with lime, calcium carbonate. And the lime can heat to a very high degree before anything happens. And so the heat of the lime and the heat of the ore and everything that's in there causes the steel to melt and run down and out on the bottom as proper good steel. And that's the steel that they make girders out of, and the hot rolled steel, essentially. It can be run again then into bright mild steel, which is a slightly better product but hard. And so it's a very intensive and very expert process. Britain only makes less than 1% of the world's steel. China makes 54%. And Trump is trying to get that back, because without steel, you can't fight a war. All they have to do is cut off the war, cut off the steel to you. Like Starmer is talking about turning the factories into making weapons, and the EU is talking about turning Volkswagen and Mercedes and all these into making tanks and weapons. And where's the steel? They shut down everything. I told them in countless public consultations, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. If you shut it down, it'll come up somewhere else, and you'll just be dependent on a foreign country. So you get my point. So imagine having to recall Parliament to save the blast furnaces. If they close them down, I don't think you could ever redo them up. Once you let the heat go down on them, they become... You have to get in with jackhammers and pull out all the lining and all the stuff. It's an unbelievable job. So rather than let it go down, finally, after all he did, Sir Keir Starmer, and all is it the Rainier one, and all of them, and all this nonsense about net zero, they have to come along and bail out the steelworks in Scunthorpe. And now the government will own it, and they'll have to buy the carbon credits of some foreign country that has carbon credits, if you believe that, and they'll have to pay for that, the British government. What a ridiculous thing. And he withdrew the winter fuel allowance, the £300 sterling winter fuel allowance, from everybody except a very tiny few. So, Lord, do you see what's happening? What's happening is that the people are mostly idiots. They elect idiotic governments. The governments jump at the first thing comes into their head. Oh, thorium. Oh, hydrogen. Oh, helium. This, that and the other. Anything only fossil fuel, when in fact fossil fuel contains hydrogen in the first place. And so they think they can avoid the burning of fossil fuel, and that is an absolute baloney, an absolute nonsense. And they've destroyed the electricity grid. Now, the previous owners, Tata Steel of the Scunthorpe Works, blamed high electricity prices and the carbon taxes and the green taxes, green restrictions, for their lack of profit. They sold it to the Chinese company Jingjai, I think it is, Jingkie or something. Anyway, they sold it to them, and they say it's the very same. We can't work under this. We can't work under these restrictions. So just look at this. The idiotic government, Labour government, which the people voted for 33% only, comes along and destroys the industry with restrictions and stupid green initiatives. And when it does that, then it has to bail out the same company it's after destroying. And they get away with this. I think there was no outcry in Parliament or anything yesterday, but now the blast furnaces are going to be kept going. The government will have some say in running them, and they're going to have to pump in the money that they took out of these companies in the first place. Why could they not keep the steelworks in the hands of a British company? That's what Trump is doing in America. And it's becoming rapidly obvious to everyone that gigantic mistake has been made with this climate change stuff and all this net zero, as they fear Russia. And Russia might be right to do something with them, because when you have that type of idiocy, and when people running an area of land are total idiots, well, there's always a temptation to go in and take it off them and run it right. That's the story. Talk about a U-turn. I don't know what will be in the papers today, but talk about a U-turn and talk about reversing policy and idiocy. It is just unbelievable. That's less than 10 minutes, folks. We let you off at that. It is something. Now, the steelworks at Port Talbot has been already closed down. It was already closed down, the steelworks at Port Talbot. So it cost too much to start it up again. China makes 54% of the world's steel. Now, just before I go, the steel that's made in Scunthorpe and used to be made in Port Talbot, that's the raw ore, that's the iron lumps like that come out of the ground and that are initially cleaned and washed a bit and treated to get the most of the iron out, but it contains a lot of impurities, and that's put in the blast furnace, and that's virgin steel. That steel, you know what's in there. That's the right quality for like drive shafts of cars or even scissors or surgical instruments which are made in an electric arc furnace. Now they're keeping the electric arc furnaces, but they have to get the steel from the virgin steel works, from the blast furnaces, and they have to import that. Now, there is another form of steel where they get old cars, old parts of cars, and it's too expensive to sort out the good parts. That's why I have a good stock of old car parts. So what I was doing there when Felix Gormley's was open, I'd take out the shafts out of them that are made of good steel, especially old ones. Old cars like Morris Minors had terrific steel in them, and I keep that and put it by, and then I get rid of the whole rest of the car. But in the modern car disposal, they just crush them up, put in all plastic, aluminium, copper, everything, brass and everything, and the result is that the steel that comes out of that is not good steel, and you can never get some of those ingredients out. They ally with the steel, and it's almost impossible to bring it back to the condition that you get with what they call virgin steel or ore steel. So they're two different things. The steel that's in old cars and that you throw the bottles in the bottle bank and the tin cans and all that, that can be all right for making tin cans. Might be all right for making the doors of cars. It might be all right for some things because they can put an element of chromium in it and reduces rust, make it more rust resistant, which was a problem with the old cars. So they can do that, but it's not the same steel. You definitely wouldn't make a gun barrel out of steel of a melted car. You definitely wouldn't make it. And the buckets of diggers and engines and all that, very risky doing that, particularly the working parts of an engine, like the conrods and the crankshaft and that. So this is it. Obviously, the British government now at this stage realises the enormity of what they're doing, and they realise that their policies will have to reverse. But will they stop killing industry? I hope they don't. I hope they go down on their knees and they don't have knives and forks to eat their dinner with. That'll be how bad it'll get there. So good enough for them. I promised this, I told it to them in public consultations, and they're building these windmills yet, and they're going to put up millions of them, net consumers of electricity, and unbelievable stuff. Now, for blast furnaces, you need electricity as well. And again, the tendency now is to go back making your own electricity, and that's a nuisance. That was for the state to provide good, solid, continuous electric power. And now they're kind of failing in that way. So the whole energy thing is a complete and utter mess. And while Mr. Trump mightn't be doing everything we might agree with, definitely he has that right. He has that right that they cannot go on. Every month that you go on with these wind and solar and other nonsense and building all this battery storage and other absolute nonsense is a month wasted. So you first have to, if you're in a hole, stop digging first before you try to get out of the hole. Is that all right? Is that understood? Will they develop common sense? No, they won't. They're a crowd of Lutherman idiots in Britain, but the Conservative government is to blame. And the people had Reform UK to vote for the last time, and they refused. So I don't know will they ever do it again. I think there's no solution for this, but definitely Putin has put the wind up them big time, and that's one good thing. Definitely one good thing. We'll see you back, folks. Comment underneath. Bye bye. Thank you.